A cornerback is available. One has been available. And we'll talk about the 49ers group on the roster already. It's a cornerback heavy episode on new Sprint Ride Option podcast.
Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go, Niners.
Let's go, Niners. Sprint Ride Option podcast. Oh my goodness, it is June 6th, the nicest of days. And hey, it's a nice episode to be talking on the Sprint Ride Option podcast. I'm Andrew Pasquini, joined as always by Jason Aponte. And Jason, we're talking cornerbacks a lot today. It's going to be a cornerback heavy day. It's a Monday. How you doing on this lovely Monday?
I'm doing good. We're getting back into the swing of things, and mandatory mini camps about to start, and there's no 49ers that are not going to be there because of holding out for any contract extensions. So, we get to dive into and just talk about football. And that's what's really cool about this offseason is that there's no drama. There's nothing. It's just talking about football and projecting what we think is going to happen this season.
Yeah, we get to talk a little bit about drama on other teams that the Niners can maybe take advantage of here and there, see if they can improve their roster. It's really nice having none of that drama on the 49ers side. I think the last one we were really concerned about was Trent Williams, but he showed up last week. So everything's good right now for the 49ers. So yeah, we get to spend some time that we don't really get to spend, Jason, talking about other teams' issues and how the 49ers might benefit off of that. So let's talk about the big one. Green Bay released cornerback Jaire Alexander today, 7 years with the team. If you go by Bookies, a Twitter account that takes all your gambling information, puts it all in one place, the 49ers are tied with the Las Vegas Raiders at plus 400 to sign Jaire Alexander to their team. So that's enough to pull us into the conversation, Jason Aponte. What was your reaction on the Jaire Alexander release, first of all, before we kind of dive into the player? I know it was something that was expected to happen, especially after a couple years ago when he got suspended for was a conduct detrimental to the team. I think he held out of a practice or something. But what was your reaction to the news that the Packers released Alexander?
Mild shock. I mean, I think they were looking for a trade partner, so it was almost destined to be. But when you find out that you're not going to have a trade partner, you can't keep him around. Obviously, it can get contentious. This is probably one of the logical ways that this would have ended. But yeah, mild shock, I would say. It just felt like this was something that was inevitable one way or another, that the Packers and Jaire were gonna part.
Yeah, and the numbers look really good, especially if you're a Niners fan, right? Because it's nothing against the 49ers current secondary as it's set up, because the top is pretty solved out. It's just the issue is once you get past the top 3-4 cornerbacks, there's not a lot of depth there. So if you sign somebody at the top, it pushes everybody down, that type of situation. But you would like the numbers. Last 3 seasons for Jaire Alexander: 7 interceptions, 26 passes defended, 85 for 135 when targeted, so 85 completions on 135 attempts, for 1,162 yards, 6 touchdowns, as I said, the 7 interceptions, 5 penalties, 83.63 passer rating against when Jaire Alexander's targeted the last 3 seasons. That's the good. That's all very good. However, what we do need to talk about, and especially in terms of the Niners' interest in him, 30 games played in the last 3 seasons, 30 games started the last 3 seasons. He played in all 17 games in 2022, which means the last 2 seasons he's played a combined 13 games. He didn't play a full 17 in 2021 as either. 2023, he had a back issue and he was suspended for that one game, kind of mentioned it already. And then last year, he dealt with a knee ligament injury that he tried to return from after 2 weeks. Re-aggravated it, never showed up again. So, Jason, the production on the field is there for Jaire Alexander. But if you're the San Francisco 49ers, is that injury history a little bit of a concern? How much of a concern is it?
It sounds like a Niner to me. All right. I mean, look, we have to really be honest. The 49ers have taken chances on guys who have had a checkered injury past based on a bounce back. So, perhaps this would be something that they would, say, hey, listen, this isn't something we could deal with, but we can't ignore the fact that the 49ers have been very willing to bring in guys who have had injury issues, hoping for a bounce back. I think the better question would probably be is, do they view cornerback as a need? And if we're going through our cornerback preview, we could start in the hypothetical world that Jaire Alexander does end up signing with the 49ers. Then Jaire Alexander Renardo Green outside, Diamador Lenore inside. And yes, they drafted Upton Stout, but you have to feel much better about that cornerback group, regardless of that. And if you do take a chance on Jaire Alexander, the real question will become how much does this cost, right? And the 49ers have certainly a lot of salary cap that, the second most in the league, but they're definitely looking to just roll that over more than anything, than spend on it. I would think the 49ers would be in more of a position to make a move mid-season than something like this. So I probably would say that they are going to pass on Jaire Alexander. He's going to end up somewhere else. But my God, does it sound really good to have Jaire Alexander and Renardo Green outside with Diamador Lenore inside, and then the 49ers have one of the most formidable cornerback groups in the league, and that's something that I think I've agreed of. I've agreed on that I wanted, and I've dreamt of that. That the no-fly zone type thing. But I just don't think the 49ers are going to be jumping at the chance to go get him.
Yeah, the 49ers, they've really replaced every position they've lost, but the one player they haven't really directly replaced is Charvarius Ward, right? He leaves. I think he signs with Indianapolis. The Niners just ideally hope Renardo Green steps up, and now you take a risk with Upton Stout on the interior or in the nickel position. Hope he can give some production. Jaire Alexander would really tuck all that away, right? He would be the most direct replacement for Ward, especially in the starting lineup. And then it takes pressure off of Upton Stout. And even in the very rare two receiver sets. Jason, two receiver sets. We don't talk about those much anymore in the NFL. You have Diamador Lenore and Jaire Alexander in a situation you wouldn't have to need them much. But then, you have that flexibility where you can kick Diamador Lenore to the inside. You have Renardo Green on the outside. And that's something that felt like Robert Saleh and Jesse here asked, all depends on what Saleh thinks of Alexander, is having that versatility. You go back to those Niner defense when Saleh was here, it was about guys playing in different roles and like Quan Alexander and all the, or not Quan Alexander, K'Wan Williams. There we go. It was important in having a solidified slot cornerback, but then also being able to have some versatility around it. So I think that's where Jaire Alexander is the most interesting to me. I think the injury should absolutely scare them away a little bit. The cap space, I'm not too worried about the Niners cap space. You already mentioned they have one of the highest cap spaces available. I don't see this being a big, massive deal to Jaire Alexander signs, maybe a 1-year prove-it deal or a 2-year thing. I don't think it would be anything crazy. So in terms of the talent on the field and how it can kind of solidify this 49ers defense a little bit better, I'm all for it. It's just, who are you getting? Because realistically, yes, he had a very good year in 2022. He hasn't had his best season since 2020, the COVID year. That's when he was probably at his peak. Now, whether or not you can get that from him still, I think you can. It's just if he can be on the field. And that's a very big question right now for 49ers defense that can't really risk too many injuries at this point. And as I said, we'll talk about the cornerbacks here in a little bit, but just talking about the depth around it, maybe there's another name out there that is a little healthier and available down there in Miami. And we'll talk about that here in a second as well, Jason. But Jaire Alexander, in terms of the player, I'm all in. Like, absolutely. Like, Jaire Alexander would be a guy that I would have on the list as a guy I've wanted to be on the Niners for several years now. But in terms of the injury situation, I don't know. I don't know how the Niners handle that.
Yeah, and Jesse's right about this, and for multiple reasons, right? Because one, Robert Saleh is the one running the show, right? And pulling the strings. But lest we forget, Robert Saleh was a consultant in Green Bay last year with LaFleur. So he got eyes on Jaire Alexander as well, too. So, yes, it does come down to what Robert Saleh thinks because he's the captain now. He's the one that's running the show.
Yeah.
But what does he think of him, which is a really good question because he was there in Green Bay with him as a consultant as well, too. Another thing, too, is after the year that Renardo Green had and everyone expecting him, like, the worst kept secret is, Renardo Green's going to have a breakout year. If you're saying that, you're not really on the cutting edge, like by saying that. That's not edgy to say that, right? It feels like a safe bet, right? Do you want to push him down and push him out of the way, right? I don't know if you want to do that. I don't think you do. I don't think, given what you think Robert Saleh is going to do to lift this defense and evolve in the scheme, I don't think the 49ers are going to sacrifice his development and him moving up just for Jaire Alexander, right? Like, it just, the player itself, it makes sense. I don't have a problem with it because I don't think it's going to be a problem with the scheme. But with the way the 49ers are feeling right now, I think that they're going to be just fine rolling Green and Lenore, and they really want to see Green on the field. And I don't think that there's going to be anybody that's available that's going to take him off the field or should take him off the field at this point unless something, major happens.
Well, could I interest you in that maybe major thing that Jason and I haven't seen anything connecting it to the 49ers, but one name that is still out there that we kind of have a conversation about comparing him to Jaire Alexander is the Miami Dolphins are looking to move off of Jalen Ramsey, a name that the 49ers have been interested in the past. I wanted the Niners to draft him way back when he was coming out of Florida State. He goes with the Jaguars instead. Carr's had a pretty good year out in Jacksonville. Goes to the Rams, wins the Super Bowl, and now he's out in Miami. Another situation where he's been pretty good. The numbers have been very good for him the last 3 seasons. 1 season in Los Angeles with the Rams, 2 seasons with the Miami Dolphins, 44 games played, 9 interceptions, 34 passes defended, 79% pass completion rate, which, a little high, but that's okay. 1,500 yards receiving, 10 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 16 penalties. That's a 73.97 passer rating against. And Jalen Ramsey, he might not be who he was with Jacksonville, that shutdown cornerback. I still think he is. I personally would rather give up the draft stock that you would have to give up to the Miami Dolphins in order to get Jalen Ramsey than go after Jaire Alexander. Jason, do you agree with that? I'm more of a Ramsey guy, but I think I'm a little more biased because of the Florida State thing. But we'll see what happens with this. But Ramsey is a name that I have wanted as a 49er fan for a few years.
Now, this one, me talking about, hey, money and everything, right? This is going to require you sending trade assets away. But can I interest you in this idea, Andrew Pasquini and 49er fans watching? Jalen Ramsey at free safety next to Malik Mustafa.
Ooh. Okay.
Now, last year and his time in Miami, Jalen Ramsey has kind of revitalized his career by playing in the slot, still being very good. When you're an outside guy, outside and slot couldn't be further apart in terms of what the responsibilities are. In terms of when you're in the slot, you're essentially another linebacker who has to cover, and you have to be nasty in the run game. When you're outside, obviously that's tough because, Jalen was one of those guys that used to chase around the number 1 guy. But at this stage in his career, I wonder if this Jalen Ramsey to the 49ers thing could be a Richard Sherman to the 49ers thing. But Richard Sherman didn't play safety, right, guys?
No.
But Diamador Lenore, Bernardo Green, Jalen Ramsey, free safety, being able to roam around, maybe kick down, do a lot of the things that you can. He's still better in coverage than anybody that you would have at that position this season. Yeah. And Malik Mustafa, now you're cooking. So I don't know if Jalen Ramsey is going to be here because it does require a trade and, and everything as well, too. But I would like him very much at free safety. I think that would be something that is far more important if he's willing to change over, right? Because he could still see himself as a cornerback, which there's no reason for him not to. It's not like he's been poor in Miami. If anything, I think this second half of his career has kind of solidified his career, meaning like he's got 2 sides of his career. One, dominant corner on the outside, then guy who moves in, and he was an all-pro in Miami, right? Like moving into the slot, all of those things. I kind of like the idea of a free safety move here. So Andrew, if you want to clear the path, here's the path. I don't think that they want to get Bernardo Green off the field. I don't think they want to get Diamador Lenore off the field. But what if you didn't have to, and you add Jalen Ramsey, who's somebody who would fit in right away, and is somebody who's a veteran and understands this game and can just play right away?
Yeah, I like the idea. If we're talking about the slot idea for Jalen Ramsey, I like that a little bit better than the Jaire Alexander idea, because I think slot is obviously the biggest need at the position right now because you don't know what Upton Stout is. And yes, you can kick Diamador Lenore inside if you get a Jaire Alexander. But I don't know. I just think you'd rather have Lenore on the outside. You're paying him as such, right? One of the better cornerbacks in the league. In terms of the safety thing, I have not tapped into that idea yet Jason. I like the thought. I mean, it within a vacuum, it definitely works because that's the biggest need in the secondary right now is you don't really have anybody next to Malik Mustafa. And hey, Jason, there's some credence to it. One snap played at free safety last year for the Miami Dolphins
That's where my
for
research came from.
Jalen Ramsey. So baby steps right there, right? It's
Swear-
teasing into it.
Where my
Mike
research came from.
McDaniels-
He played one snap, then he can do it.
Mike McDaniels is a 49ers spy. He's like, hey, we're going to get that one snap at free safety, get it on tape, send that to Kyle. We'll see what we can do. But yeah, I mean, if you can make that work, then yes, absolutely, right? Like if you could get Jalen Ramsey to play free safety, the idea is absolutely there. Now in execution, don't know if maybe the best cornerback of this side of 2016 wants to make that move, but I do like the idea of him playing more of a slot role with the 49ers as well. I think that versatility helps him over Jaire Alexander. Now, if we bring it back to the Alexander versus Ramsey conversation, I personally would prefer Jalen Ramsey. I think the Niners would much rather go after Jaire Alexander because, they've already used one of those comp picks to go get Bryce Huff. Maybe they're looking to hold on to him a little bit more. It'll be the easiest way to get a cornerback if you want to solidify that point position because as like Jesse said, safety is a bigger need than cornerback, right? I think that's true. So maybe the Niners look to address that. But Jason, I want to go back to something you said earlier, and I think the best option is what you said is a trade in the midseason. I don't know if either of these guys will be available at that point, but I think, and I was thinking about this earlier when just thinking about the position breakdown, is just the way it is set up, where it's Lenore, Renardo, and Upton Stout as your top three guys. Is if Stout doesn't translate to what you want, or maybe Lenore's a little better on the interior, then you're available to go make a trade at the deadline. And I don't always want to make it the comparison, but like an Emmanuel Sanders type, right? Like obviously that's a receiver, but you're looking at for a guy with some experience to step in and help. Chase Young's another one. So I could definitely see if they pass on both of these options. As I said, I think Alexander makes a little bit more sense just in terms of the price. If you have to pick one of these two, but I think the likeliest scenario is the Niners run with what they have right now, and they see what they have 7 weeks into the season and reevaluate from there.
Yeah, I absolutely think the 49ers are good with what they have right now. I think the Bryce Huff thing felt like the last puzzle piece for them. What we're talking about right now is something that it doesn't need to be a priority, but it could be something that is explored. But it probably would have to happen in the offseason. It's not going to happen in midseason, right? Like these guys are going to be on different teams at that point, or maybe Ramsey just says, hey, we'll come back, and he sticks around. But Jaire Alexander is certainly going to sign with someone else. I also want to throw out the idea of if the 49ers are looking at somebody for a corner, probably going to be somebody who's 25, 26 years old, probably Asante Samuel Jr., and they're just waiting for all his medicals to clear. A little bit banged up. The only issues that you really have are the fact that he's not a great tackler. That the 49ers really value that in their corners, but could be some found money and, again, depth, right? And I think that's what we're talking about with the midseason trade is when you look around and you evaluate your team 8-9 weeks in, you're getting towards Halloween when that trade deadline comes around and you're like, okay, within here, we don't like this development, we need this. And you're evaluating your team where you're saying, hey, we're in the middle of a playoff push here. We can really make some noise. Last year, I think the 49ers were in that spot where they looked around and they said, there's no trade out there that's going to change this team's fortunes. So we're just going to go ahead and not look. But when the 49ers are rolling and they're looking for it, they've done it before. The midseason thing and the trade deadline thing is something that I'd probably say that they'll wait on because, one, it gives them time to evaluate the team all the way up to that point, see who's developed. Two, it gives them that wiggle room of like, hey, if there's a big injury or something like that, then we can go address it if there's someone that's out there. I don't blame them for that. But if I'm looking around at everything and what kind of makes sense, Asante Samuel seems like a late signing after they find out like what's going on with his medicals. But I do love the idea of Jalen Ramsey being here because he fits playing a free safety. Obviously, his versatility is great. Also, you have to think about ring chasers, right? Guys who are going to be willing to, like, at the end of their career, play for one more year, for one more shot. Not saying the 49ers are going to be Super Bowl favorites, but they're certainly in a better position than they were last year. A lot of people still probably believe that the 49ers are going to make a move like that. Yeah, Jalen Ramsey makes a little bit more sense. I've come around to that far more than I have the Jaire Alexander thing. The only thing that's really holding that up, in my opinion, is the 49ers having to give up draft assets. But they've got all of their picks for the next 3 years. And each year, due to the comp formula, they've got 10, 11, 12, 13 picks as usual. Would it be bad to give a 1 or 2 away if you want to get Jalen Ramsey? And it wouldn't necessarily have to be high picks.
Well, that's especially what helps come the midseason trade. If they do it, is they'll have all those picks plus the cap space, so they'll be able to make any trade work if any bigger name comes up. Asante Samuel is also a great shout. I know the Niners were semi-interested in him once he came around the draft process a few years ago. He went to the Los Angeles Chargers. Now he's a free agent after some injury issues. So we'll see what comes up with there. But Jason, we've talked a little bit about players who could be 49ers. Let's talk about our first position breakdown, our first position preview for the 2025 season, Jason, where we're getting closer and closer to the regular season, closer and closer to camp and preseason. So we're just going to kind of give you these little position previews here and there. First position we're going to go through, just since we talked about it so much earlier in the episode, is the cornerback. And Jason, 49ers.com has 10 players listed as a cornerback right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the roster I'm going off of, no other, just the 49ers website. They have Diamador Lenore, Renardo Green, Upton Stout, Trey Avery, Trey Brown, Derek Canteen, Dallas Flowers, Chase Lucas, Darrell Luter, and Jacob Robinson listed as their cornerbacks right now. And obviously there's a few names there that'll get a little more attention than others, starting with Diamador Lenore. And Jason, we've talked about him a little bit here and there this episode, just kind of his role. It looks like he's going to play on the outside, coming off of a season where he signs a 5-year, $90 million extension. I believe that number was off the top of my head. He's really developing into one of the better cornerbacks in the league. It still gets a little bit of disrespect, as Mel Kiper used him as a reason the Niners shouldn't have taken Upton Stout, where you already have a guy in this slot, where Niner fans, I think he's going to be more on the outside. So Jason, do you foresee another step for Diamador Lenore? Because I feel like since he's entered the league with the Niners, he's kind of been in that Fred Warner area where he's taken a noticeable step each and every season. Last year might not have been his best, but he definitely finished it off stronger than he started. So where are you at with Diamador Lenore in terms of his growth as a 49er?
He's absolutely taking a step, and he's taking a step to being a cornerstone foundational player for the 49ers. One of the guys that when you go through, how can you leave him out of any top 5, top 7 San Francisco 49er list? Also, this has nothing to do with playing football, but I fucking love Diamador Lenore's shit-talking game. Yep. Did you see? I think it was Jackson Smith and Jigba said something about, well, I don't be online or whatever because, he was saying, and Diamador Lenore said, I know why your bum ass is not online. And then he posted a picture of Geno Smith and it was like, tell your old bum ass quarterback to get out of here too. Dude, I fucking love it. I love it, man. Look, there's definitely times where players, sometimes I'm just like, all right, shut up. But when you're hooping, say whatever the fuck you want. I love Diamador Lenore. I love him. I love the way his attitude, everything about him embodies what the 49ers want to be, right? In the same way that nasty streak that Kittle has, right, is what everybody did. The same thing with Jawan Jennings. Like, he's part of that right there. Diamador Lenore absolutely is going to take a step. And him being listed, I think, by PFF at number 27 is absolutely disgusting. And we need to start stuffing nerds in lockers and giving out wedgies more. Like, I think we need to get back to bullying some nerds. Just a few of them, not all of them. But 27, do you mean to tell me the 26 cornerbacks better than Diamador Lenore? Probably not. But yes, foundational player. The 49ers got this done. It's going to look like a steal of a deal when he puts up another really good year. Probably going to make the Pro Bowl this year. I love Diamador Lenore. And furthermore, I just love the shit talking. Like, for all the things that the 49ers had to endure when Richard Sherman was talking crazy about them and everything, finally, the 49ers have a guy that's doing that to Seattle. And you know what? I love that. And I think it's time for us to get our lick back. And I didn't know it was going to come in the form of Diamador Lenore. But I love his attitude. I love his play. 10 out of 10, no notes, Diamador Lenore. Keep being you. But there's definitely going to be a big step for him in 26. Absolutely.
I think that's something I really like about Diamador. You say it's an off the field thing, but it's a fuck you attitude, right? That's what it is. And I feel like if you think of any great cornerback, go back to Deion Sanders, and then go to my generation of cornerbacks with Richard Sherman and Darrell Revis. They had those fuck you attitudes to them. And Diamador Lenore absolutely has it both on the field and off it. So yeah, you say the Instagram stuff is off the field, but I don't necessarily like my players talking shit right? Like it just is what
That's
it
how I
is.
feel too.
But there's two positions you need some trash talkers, and that's wide receiver and cornerback.
Right.
And the Niners haven't necessarily had that cornerback since. I mean, I know they had Sherman for those couple of seasons, right? But they haven't really had that guy at corner since Deion Sanders, right? I mean, we've talked about Charvarius Ward after his second season with the Niners of, is this the best cornerback for the Niners since Deion? And Diamador Lenore is near that point of like, we could have that conversation with him. And what I really like about him is the versatility, right? Because now, again, let's say, Jason, the Niners stand pat. You have Diamador Lenore, you have Renardo Green, you have Upton Stout. Upton Stout doesn't pan out exactly how you want. Now you get to that mid-season point. Maybe there's an outside cornerback available. You can kick Diamador Lenore back inside, make it work. So, yeah, I think this is the year. I feel like nickel cornerbacks never get as much credit as they should. I mean, we remember going through years of K'Wan Williams and not a lot of people talking about him like he was one of the better cornerbacks in the league. I know he left and that career hasn't really panned out since. But Niner fans know how good K'Wan Williams is. And Diamador Lenore feels like he's getting to that point where nobody really recognizes how great of a cornerback he is because so much of his framework has been in the slot. 2025 is the year where that changes because there's no reason for him not to be the outside cornerback, especially if everything works out with Upton Stout. So I think this could be the year where Lenore absolutely develops into one of the better cornerbacks
I see someone in the background
in the NFL.
Sorry.
You're good.
I just wanted to say hi to Jeremy.
I got my point off on Diamador Lenore.
Oh no! All right, that's where we're going. Oh, so look, yes, absolutely. But again, they're paying him that way, and they're putting him in a position to be that guy. And again, I just don't like the idea of him being pushed down to like 27. There's no way you're going to tell me there's 26 cornerbacks better than Diamador Lenore. It just like doesn't make sense. And you are right. The 49ers have not had Richard Sherman was that guy for Seattle against the 49ers, right? But he wasn't that guy as a 49er. You know, unfortunately, I think Unc knew that he was just like, I'm here at my time, you know, like that's it. You know, like he's still confident, but he wasn't Richard Sherman going on yelling at Skip Bayless confident, right? Like that was I think there was two different people that we were getting. This feels like somebody that's completely different, you know, and I agree with you. And you know what? I'm with you. I don't like when 49ers pop the shit, like I at times, but you know what? If you're going to pop that shit and back it up, then I don't care what you say, right? Like one of my favorite, and obviously he's not here anymore, one of my favorite Deebo Samuel games of all time is the second Philly game when they go back to Philly with Brock Purdy and he absolutely fucking dominated, right? I love that. I if you're going to back it up, then back it up, say it and back it up. You know, I don't need you to, you know, be chirping all the time. And in the same token, it made me annoyed after Philadelphia, you know, beat us that they were like, oh, we're still the better team. It's like, dude, you can believe that, but you don't have to say that. Like it makes you look like you're sour grapes because again, going back to the point, if Jalen Hurts got hurt in the first three minutes of that game or whatever too, and the 49ers rolled them, you know, we wouldn't be like, well, we beat the Eagles without Jalen Hurts. No. Nobody would have like, you know, given that qualifier. You'd win the game, you would lose the game, whatever. We can talk about the circumstances after, but I think Demo's one of those guys that he's just like, you know, I'm going to call my shot. And when I play, like, this is how it is. I just like that he's terrorizing the Seattle Seahawks because they deserve it. Like, it's time for you to get your get back. And I'm just shocked that it was him that was going to be the guy that was doing it. But Charvarius Ward did it for a little while when he was locking up DK Metcalf. It's just now Lenore seems to be like a 49er for a long time. Yeah. So we can keep this going for a while. I love this idea if it means that Seattle fans are going to have to be like, oh, I hate how much shit he's talking. Good. Cry about it. That's what we want.
I like that. Yeah, no, I love it about Diamador Lenore. Not to ask the exact same question for Renardo Green, Jason Aponte, but, you know, there's another step Renardo Green can take. It's a little bit different of a level than Diamador Lenore, where Lenore feels like he's on the precipice of superstardom. Renardo Green, a solid rookie campaign for the 49ers. He came out of nowhere a little bit. You know, he was a third round pick, or I believe a second or third round pick somewhere in their day 2 pick. I guess we'll use the general term, Jason. But he turned out to be a decent little cornerback for the 49ers last year. So is he a guy you expect to take another step this season, or did we see the best of Renardo Green last season?
No, it's got to be another step.
Yes.
And that's why you read an article on PFF or NFL.com about breakout candidates for each team. okay, well, you're going to pick Ricky Pearsall or Bernardo Green, right? Because that's natural. In the same way, who's the most underrated 49er? Well, it's Juwan Jennings. Yeah, duh. Like now you guys are like, this seems like an easy answer. It's not cutting edge when someone says, I expect Bernardo Green to break out this year. It's not cutting edge when you say, like, it's just the way that it's gone. I think when you look at how his rookie year came out and how he played, he didn't look like a rookie. So what's your natural thought is he's only going to get better. And he was excellent last year. Yeah. So, yeah, of course he is. But I don't want people like when he has a very good year this year, I don't want people being like, I called it. I knew he was going to break out. Like, it's like saying Trent Williams is going to be really good when you're not saying anything when you say that. It's just, I think I don't want to be like a killjoy or anything like that, but I'm just saying, like, he's really good and he's going to be very good. But you're not Nostradamus by saying, oh, Bernardo Green's going to break out. It seems obvious, right? Like, that absolutely seems obvious based on the way that he's played. But yeah, he's absolutely going to take another step, and he's another one. He embodies what this 49ers defense is trying to be. When you have two guys on the outside, plus, by the way, wearing fucking number 0 is easily one of the most fire things a cornerback can do, because it just means you're a dog. Like, and that's what I really like. Once he switched to 0, I was like, oh, he's activated now. But yeah, Bernardo Green is going to play very well. Bernardo Green is going to take another step. Bernardo Green is very good today. And that's why the 49ers feel really excited about their defense and their secondary. You drafted Lenore, you drafted Bernardo Green, you drafted Malik Mustafa. We give a lot of shit to the 49ers for, players that they miss on. Man, they're drafting the shit out of the secondary right now, and they're doing a great job. And I think that's something that, whatever. Is it Adam Peters? Is it John Lynch? Is it Kyle Shanahan? Is it Robert Saleh? It doesn't matter. They're identifying secondary, and they're doing very well with it. But yes, Bernardo Green is absolutely going to have a huge year this year.
And something that excites me too is this really feels like the first time in a long while that both cornerback spots have been pretty solidified for week 1, at least, right? Because last year it was, you had Charvarius Ward, but was it Demo going to be on the outside? I know there's a few other names. The year before, kind of the same situation. I just don't feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, but is the last time we really had a solidified 1-2 corner? Is it Richard Sherman and Akello Witherspoon? Like, is that the last time we were sure who the 1-2 cornerbacks would be going into the regular season? So that's something that's rare for the 49ers in recent memory, is having the 1-2 guys set up. So that's something that excites me about Bernardo Green this year. Not just that he's a Florida State Seminole as well, but also the number 0 is absolutely a thing that should be talked about more, Jason. That's something we might talk about come the regular season when he has like a pick 6, just how much better it looks in the number 0. Jason, I'm not going to ask you what you think of Upton Stout necessarily, because we've talked a lot about Upton Stout. Third round pick, Niners used a selection on him, 100th pick, which they used on a different position a couple years ago. I don't need to dive in on that, so I don't need to ask.
You're such a troll.
I am.
You're such a troll. You're such a troll. I don't. So I don't want you to. I don't want that to skate by that you're trolling with that either or whatever too. Okay,
I'm just saying.
You just want to piss me off.
Factually speaking, the 49ers used a pick that a couple years ago they used on a different position. That's all I'm saying. But Jason, is there some concern that it's Diamador Lenore, Bernardo Green as your top 2 guys, and then after that it's a third round rookie, and then it's, your guess is better than mine, Darrell Luter is there, right? Trey Brown is a name that you recognize. Is there some concern with how, as good as Green and Lenore can be, that after them, it's very, very much up in the air?
Yeah, the depth isn't great. And this is why, if you're thinking about why would the 49ers sign Asante Samuel, or why would they even entertain Jaire Alexander, or why would they even look at Jalen, it's this reason, right? If all goes well, if everything goes right, then Diamador Lenore and Bernardo Green don't miss any games. And Upton Stout plays on the inside, and he's fine. That's a good plan. But as we know, plans are plans until they're not. I do think the San Francisco 49ers really, really, really want to give Darrell Luter a shot. And that's who they're really looking at as the guy that they want to step up. I think they loved him from when he came out. Obviously, they drafted him. Injury, right? Sound familiar? Injury, hey, we'll keep him around. He played on special teams. he played on special teams in the Super Bowl. We don't have to talk about what happened in that game either. But I do think that they do believe in Darrell Luter, and they are trying to give him a shot to shoot up this depth chart. He's not going to start over Lenore or Green, but him being the next option, they would love that. And I think the 49ers were thinking about that moving forward. They just didn't know that the year after they drafted him that they were going to draft Renardo Green. 2 years after, right? That they were going to end up with Renardo Green, who ends up starting, right? So that's why you continue to draft, right? Like, remember when they said, hey, we didn't have a need for starters, so that's why we didn't draft for starters. That's why you always draft for starters, always, every single time. That was like by far one of the dumbest things I ever fucking heard. So yeah, you always have to draft for starters. We don't have a need at this draft. Good football players always continue to do that.
Feels simple,
but right. I do think Darrell Luter is somebody that they really want to give a look to. Trey Brown has a history in the league, so you can at least give him that. And also don't underestimate the 49ers' ability to give a veteran, way more playing time than he needs or anything like that, or just bank on a veteran just for that. But I do think Darrell Luter is the one that we're kind of still overlooking and people are still forgetting is on this roster, because I really do think that the 49ers want to give him a shot.
Can I ask a question that maybe not fit for a 2025 preview, but maybe why'd they give up so quickly on Samuel Womack? Did I miss something with him? Like, what happened? Because I felt like he was okay. Like, right, his rookie season, he starts one game. I felt he was okay. Year two, I don't remember 2023. Did he have injury issues? I don't remember necessarily. Had 7 games played, and then last year he goes to Indianapolis. Plays all 17, 8 games started. Why'd they give up so quick on Samuel Womack?
Good question. So I remember in 2021 against Atlanta, I was at the game.
Yes.
He was forced into playing outside because I believe not Charvarius Ward. Forget who the starter was at the time. 2021, because Charvarius Ward wasn't there at that time.
Let's see if I can find this game for you.
But he got kicked outside. And we all thought that he was going to be a nickel guy. But Kyle Pitts scored his first touchdown on American soil against him on the outside. No, because remember, Kyle Pitts only scored in London whenever he played. Like, he had not had touchdowns in America. So he scored a touchdown over there. He was kind of getting baked a little bit, and it kind of just felt like, okay, he might not be a fit outside corner. The 49ers secondary really got much better, right? Like that season, right? Like, I mean, it ended up with Ambry Thomas and it ended up with Emmanuel Mosley. Emmanuel Mosley was the one who got injured. My bad. Emmanuel Mosley was the one who got injured, and he had to jump right out there or whatever and go play. So the 49ers felt like they were fine out there for a little while or whatever. And obviously they hit Ambry Thomas as much as they could, but what's funny is Gus Bradley, who was the defensive coordinator in Indianapolis, he got it out of him, right? And every time that you would look up and you would look at the numbers that, have given up, passes defended, and passes allowed and catches allowed, Womack was at the top. And now Indianapolis has Womack and Charvarius Ward. And, there's your Whom's revenge game when they play Indianapolis, So I don't have a good reason for it. I remember being very high on him in that one camp that he was there and he looked good, but he had some sequences of bad play combined with the injuries. That feels like Samuel Womack feels like DJ Reed. Okay. And like how did you let him walk? I think they thought they might be able to just let him slide and then they could just sneak him back on the roster, and that just wasn't going to happen. Somebody else found him, and then there you go.
Because the reason I bring it up is because, like, looking at this list that I already mentioned, I feel like if you just had a Samuel Womack in there, like, you would feel much better about the depth. Yes. And I guess maybe that's the Asante Samuel, right? Like, maybe
I think he wears 0 as well too.
I believe he does. I believe this. Oh man, I'm gonna look up. No, he wore 0 for the 49ers. He wears 33 for the Colts.
Okay.
But yeah, I feel like he had a Womack or a Samuel. I would feel, or like, even, man, not to like a Rock Yassin, bring it back to Isaac Yiadom, some name like that, where like he was there last year. And obviously, like, Yiadom, he kind of outwore his welcome because the Niners kind of had to play him too much. But I feel like if you just had that level of player in this room behind Lenore, behind Green, behind Stout, behind Luter, I would just feel so much better about this group. But again, it's a top heavy group. So hopefully, Jason, the NFL agrees to turn off injuries and you're good to go. But injuries obviously happen. You don't want them to happen. So overall, Jason, on June 9th, 2025, how do you feel about the 49ers at cornerback? Let's do a grade of A to F. On a grade of A to F, how do you feel the Niners are at cornerback right now?
And just cornerback, not safety.
Not safety. We'll do safety for its own thing.
Mm-hmm. I would say they're at an A- right now. But I want to preface that by saying this. It's because of Robert Saleh that I feel like that, right? The 49ers' problem last year wasn't coverage at all. If anything, coverage was the reason that their pass rush was even allowed to get home at times, when it had been the other way around. But given the way Robert Saleh, wants to run his defense, the evolution of the scheme, I only see a bump up for these guys. Now, couple that with the fact that the pass rush has to be better. The run defense has to be better because it can't be worse. Yeah, the secondary is going to take a step up. So I'm going to give it an A- with a chance for it to be an A+. They do need to add another cornerback that is going to give it stability. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean it's an outside corner that starts a la Asante Samuel, and then you kick in Diamador Lenore, and then you have this absolute beast of three corners? This combination would be hard for you to argue that anybody else has a better one. Is it that, or is it just these guys playing all those games? I don't know. I think that, the best plans are that they want them to play every single down, but it's the 49ers and we know how it goes. If we're going off history, if the 49ers have a historically bad season with injuries, generally it can't get any worse, right? Next year, knock on wood. So, you got to see a lot of those guys still out there. And Lenore and Green weren't the ones who suffered those injuries. So they were out there for the most part. You just hope that goes that way. But yeah, I'd give it an A- right now with a chance for it to be an A+ if they make one more move.
I'm going to set a B+ just because of that depth, right? You feel very good about the top two. You don't know about Upton Stout or anything beyond that, but just having the two outside guys solidified as a 49er fan is very cool because we haven't been there in so long as 49er fans. So I'm at that B+ range. But yeah, if you definitely add a name, I'll take an Asante Samuel just to shore up the depth. But boy, oh boy, if you could give me a Jalen Ramsey or a Jaire Alexander, I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to say though, because we talk about some issues with that, right? With what you do with Lenore in that situation. That's a 49er problem, Jason. That's not a Sprint Right Option podcast problem. They figure that out. We react to them figuring it out. So yeah, Jason, sign and draft more starters. I like that idea. So yeah, I'm gonna go B+. I like where they are at the position. Just a little bit more depth would be nice. So Jason, that's our cornerback episode. That's our big cornerback episode. Well, we'll do two positions next week just to make up. We'll do safeties since we're on cornerbacks, and then maybe we'll go to the offensive ball with running backs or something. We'll decide those positions in the coming week. But Jason, great episode today. I need to listen to some K Tronada. I think that's exciting. That's something for me to look forward to.
Yo, is Axel in here? You heard that, Axel?
He was just in Sacramento, California, doing a show out here. He chose a horrible day to do it because it was 102 degrees. 100 degrees. That day. It was so hot that day, Jason. Probably would have turned me from going because it was an outdoor thing. But yeah, dude, I'm all in on 3 albums. I got 3 albums I got to listen to, so I'm excited.
So one more thing before we get into the talk about that. So when you're looking at potential midseason acquisitions, anybody that it could be, right? You have to think about somebody who's going to be a free agent next year, right? Darius Slay is somebody who's going to be a free agent next year, but that's Pittsburgh. I doubt they would move him. Jonathan Jones, I doubt that Washington would move him. Amik Robertson from Detroit, I doubt they would move him. Eric Stokes from the Raiders, perhaps. Kyer Elam, who's in Dallas, kind of disappointed. Greg Newsome. Now that's the one that I'm gonna push the button on here.
I feel like that's been a name that's been tied to the 49ers in the past too.
For sure, and he's gonna get paid the year after. But if the 49ers find themselves around Halloween with a cornerback issue, or there's an injury here or there, Greg Newsome is the guy that you need to be calling Cleveland for, because Cleveland's not going to be doing anything this year. That's the guy that you really need to be locked in on. So if I had to give you a midseason target, it's Greg Newsome. That's who it's going to be. All those other guys, like trading for Darius Slay, why would they do that? The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to go 9-8 like they usually do, and everyone's going to dick eat Mike Tomlin and say he's such a great coach, and they're going to lose in the first round like they normally do.
That's the tricky thing is it has to be an expiring contract on a team that probably isn't going to the playoffs.
Exactly, right? So why would the Lions trade Robertson? They wouldn't. Why would Jonathan Jones get traded? They wouldn't. That's the guy that you're looking at right there. So if we're looking at a midseason thing, I would say it's Greg Newsome. But yeah, they're not. The Pittsburgh Steelers aren't going to trade Darius Slay. They got 9 games to win, and they got a wild card game to get blown out in. So you can keep praising Mike Tomlin.
Even with Rodgers.
Even with Rodgers, they were 9-8 last year. With Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. They're going to go 9-8 again with Aaron Rodgers and DK Metcalf. And it's hilarious because they're like, oh, we want to add playmakers. Then why'd you trade George Pickens? I don't know what they're doing over there. I don't know what the hell they're running over there, man. But yeah, they're going to go 9-8 again. Look at that division, right? Look me square in the eye right now and tell me that you believe that they're going to have a better record than the Cincinnati Bengals or the Baltimore Ravens, and I expect both those teams to beat them twice. So that's 4 losses off the rip, right? That means they're not going 13-3 against the rest of that division or their schedule. So yeah, they're gonna go 9-8, or my math is bad or whatever. They're gonna they could have only lost 4 more, but they're gonna go 9-8. They're gonna lose in the first round. And everyone's going to be like, I want Mike Tomlin here in San Francisco so that we can have a losing season. For what? To lose in the first round and get blown out? Yeah. I'll take my chances with Kyle Shanahan because when the 49ers do make the playoffs, they either end up in the NFC Championship or the Super Bowl. I'll take that 10 out of 10 times, guys.
We like that. Well, Jason, a lot of talk about cornerbacks. I like that. Nice little bucket data at the end of names we can look at. And I'm sure that name will shift as we get closer to the trade. Look at us talking trade deadline in June. I love it.
But I did want to say this because this is your assignment with Kaytranada, right? I want you to start with 99.9%. I want you to start with
99.9%. Okay.
I want you to start with that because Bubba's next, and then Timeless is next. Which, by the way, Timeless came out a year ago. I think it's like maybe 2 or 3 days ago, and I still haven't stopped listening to it. But I want you to focus in on the first one. Because while there are similarities, while there are similarities, each album is its own experience, and each album has its different moments. So I don't want you to try to ingest all of his music in one shot. I don't want you to do that. I want you to start because I think the building block of 99% into Bubba, into Timeless will tell you far more about the artist and why I love him so much. And why his music is so excellent, than it will just trying to ingest all that music all together at one time. I think one on top of the other, it's a building block type of thing. And Axel's the other Kaytranada enthusiast of the Spicy Squad and in our channel and everything as well too. So he knows and whether he agrees or not, I think he would agree. I think that's the one that you start with because it's such a good way to start.
Okay, I'll start with that and go from there. Perfect. All right, Kaytranada is. I got more records for the record play. I don't know if you noticed this is more full today, but we got
Andrew. Do you want to laugh? I'm glad that you're bringing that up. There you go.
One.
I did, but it doesn't have spaghetti on it, man. Just.
I told Jamie you were mad about that.
I'm furious. I'm still mad. So look, I want to make you laugh because I saw something, and again. If you guys are here for 49ers Talk, thank you guys so much. Again, like this video if you're on YouTube. That helps us a lot. Subscribe if you're not, if you're not at this point. That helps us a lot as well, too. This is not going to be 49ers Talk, but this is just going to be, us, being funny. Andrew, so I saw something that said, obviously men can't really do anything these days. Like men can't have hobbies. Men can't laugh. Men can't dance. Right. Okay. I saw something that said if a man has a lot of vinyl records, that makes him a hoe.
Guilty as charged. Guilty as charged.
No, the guy who answers, he goes, listen, He goes, you know what? That's absolutely true. He goes, because he was like, you know what it is? You come back to my place, and I'm like, hey, you want to hear something? And you pull out that vinyl and you put it on the record player. That's different.
Yes.
That's different.
Yes. No, absolutely. There's something about it. There's something vibey about the vinyl playing.
Oh yeah.
I'm all in on that idea. I like it. As I said, I got more than 2 albums. Dude, this was a pretty solid find.
Oh my God, I love Call Me If You Get
Call Me
Lost.
If You Get Lost. I got this is a personal of mine, the Chapel Roan 1-year anniversary. Like, I'm big on that. Yeah, dude. I there's something about vinyls. There's something about like going to a vinyl store, because I did that yesterday for the first time, with like a used vinyl store, and there's something about it, man.
No, the used vinyl is even more like leaning towards that. But I do want to say this: when we're done going through the Catronata, and for anybody that's new to this, it means, Andrew's been asking for, album recommendations. By the way, Andrew, I don't know if you saw in my story, Little Brother has a front porch a performance, which is, there's a tiny desk and there's front porch. I thought you'd appreciate that, because
speaking of tiny desk, did you see 40s?
Yes.
Oof.
Yes.
That was
yes,
good. But I'll
excellent.
Front porch. I'll look into that. I'll YouTube that now.
But what Andrew does is he asked me for recommendations. I gave him a Travis Scott album to listen to. I gave him a Little Brother album to listen to. What else, Andrew? If you can remember,
we had an Action Bronson. We had
Action Bronson.
ASAP.
Yep.
We started with
ASAP Rocky. There you go, ASAP Rocky. Okay, so now I'm giving him Catronata, right? But I do want to transition. God damn it, I had something that I wanted to say, and I think I lost it. I did want to transition and make sure that you got on board listening to somebody else, and it's gonna come to me. If you just talk, it'll come to me.
I got you. So the front porch, I found it. Little Brother, the front porch. I like it. 6 hours ago. It just came out today.
Yes. That makes me so happy. That makes me so happy.
That was a good album. I'd never heard of them, and that was a very, very enjoyable album.
Have it on Little Brother's excellent. All right, I'll think of it. Nope, I didn't get it back. It's fine.
If only there was a way for us to talk to each other through some sort of form. We'll figure it out, Jason. But Jason, good episode today. Next week we'll talk safeties and maybe another offensive position. Cornerbacks today. You got all our thoughts. A great episode of the Sprint Rate Option Podcast. Great time to subscribe to this YouTube channel. A great bunch of great content. Jason has shows going on every day. So please subscribe. Go ahead.
Here it is.
I knew you got it. I trusted you.
No, it's not about the music. It's something about you said drama.
Yes, drama.
Brandon Ayuk for Terry McLaurin. Who says no?
Man, I didn't want to talk about that today.
Nope, I'm not letting you off the hook.
I think if you're the Niners, you don't say no.
If you're the 49ers, you absolutely don't say no.
Yeah. No, and you know me. I love Brandon. I love Brandon Ayuk. I really like respectfully to Brandon Ayuk. And I saw this mentioned on Twitter. Healthy receiver versus unsure of health receiver. I think you take that every time. But then also just the talent. I think Terry, obviously the money situation would be a little different, but you'd essentially restart the Ayuk contract with it. I would do it. Yeah.
I don't know why Washington would.
No reason.
But I know that if Washington, and Adam Peters really loved him that much, that I wouldn't even let him hang up the phone before I look. Brandon Ayuk, I think, is, when healthy, a top 10 route runner in the NFL.
Yes.
I believe that. And not just because he's a 49er. But Brandon Ayuk is coming off a massive knee injury. Massive. Terry McLaurin.
And one that should not be compared to Stephon Diggs, by the way. Just want to say
at all. That's not the same thing at all.
I saw people throwing that out because Diggs was running some routes, and
no, he's right. He's going to be ready to go week 1. And also, when you party on a boat, like outside, you know what I'm saying? Like that helps you, get your knee back together or whatever. That's the secret sauce that nobody tells you about. But Terry McLaurin is by far one of the most underrated wide receivers in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And, my love affair with the player, it goes back to, it's the running joke, right? If Jake Moody's the running joke, then Terry McLaurin and Jalen Hurd, that's the running joke, right?
Yep.
I don't think this will ever happen, and Washington would be really, really dumb if they were saying that. But if there's a chance to move Brandon Ayuk for Terry McLaurin right now, I don't even let Adam Peters' crazy ass hang up the phone before. I'm just like, he's already on the way.
No, yeah.
Trey Amos locking down Debo in practice, they're saying.
That was another God. Niner fans love to overreact to that stuff, don't they? Especially when it comes to former 49ers. But hey, neither here nor there, Jason.
Man. I think
he does great. I think he does great.
I think he's gonna have a very good year.
Yeah.
Given that Cliff Kingsbury offense in which everything is a lot of quick game and tunnel screens, and don't be shocked if Debo starts going off this year, man. But good for him, man. But still, like, I'm half joking when I say this or whatever. Obviously, I know it's not gonna happen, but you think about it. Brandon Ayuk, Terry McLaurin. If you would have asked me this question a year ago, 2 years ago, I probably would say, listen, I'll stick with BA. But given everything that's going on right now, man, if there's a chance for you to move Brandon Ayuk for Terry McLaurin, I don't even think you give it a second thought. And I just don't know why Washington would. Again, we're just filling time right here. But yeah, come on, man.
Yeah, no, that absolutely would be the move. And then if DC wants to do it, that would be fantastic, especially just for a team building sense of because I mean we'll talk about receiver later. It would fill a bunch of questions with this receiver core, and you don't have to worry about what you have behind Ayuk because you would have Terry McLaurin.
We need Dan Snyder's ghost to get back into that front office and start doing some dumb shit. Because Adam Peters is just too smart to go ahead and do that, even though he knows BA very well. But if the ghost of Dan Snyder could get in there, and they could start getting willy-nilly, then we're cooking. But unfortunately, I just think the Washington's too smart for that, and rightfully so.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jason, good episode. We even got to the rumor portion of 49ers Twitter. But let's see, because that's again, we don't have to worry about it. We get to fantasize about picking players from teams having issues with contracts. We're Niner fans. We don't know what it's like to have that, right? All our players have signed. We're happy. We don't have to worry about losing anybody. But Jason, good episode today. I enjoyed it. We talk cornerbacks. Next week we'll talk another position. Jason Aponte, though, as always.
Let's go Niners. And listen to that Kate Renata album.
Let's go Niners. I'll listen to the Kate Renata album. And Giants slowly starting to turn it around. Never know. Baseball. Ooh.
Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners.